She's going to open up and talk about an overview of what's going on. Then we have Atwood Davis from the Bureau of Inspection and Review. And we have the talented and vivacious Scott Tyrell, who is a supervisor and project manager in information systems. So when we go, we're going to try to answer everybody's questions as we go, the people in the room and the people on the webinar. If you're asking a question in the room, please wait. We'll bring you a mic so that everybody can hear what you're asking. And with that, I ask Elaine to come back. Thank you.
Hello, Elaine Dewan. For all of those who are tuning in via the webinar, the instructions that were handed out are available online. If you go to the forums page and you go to the RI where it has the RI online, there's a little thing that says instructions. And you can click on that and view it. The reason why we handed it out today, it's a good idea perhaps to have that in front of you while you're filling out your RI online. If you are in the service and then you go, oops, I need to go look at it, it's almost impossible to get back to it. However, we currently have our forms person parsing out that instruction so it will go page by page within the service. So that should be available to you shortly. One of the things the RI online instructions will do is it gives you the full suite of questions that we're going to be asking you. So it's a good idea to look through it, get ideas of what you're going to need to answer, and it'll get you an idea of the service. Very handy for the first time you go on, because it will be all news to you. As we move forward, we're hoping our other online services will be very similar in questions, but just tense changes, because pretty much that's how our remedial phases go through. What do you have? How much? What are you going to do about it? And what did you do? So just a little overview of why we're starting off with the RI online. Most people don't start in the middle. They usually start at the beginning. It's rare that you start at the end. So why are we rolling out with the RI online? Well, our goal was for the May 7th, 2014 deadline that we'd have an online service up and running for you. We made very good attempts at that. We started the design process early in January of 2013. And as we built, tested, perfected, we were approaching the May 14th, 2000 deadline a little too quickly. And I didn't want to roll out a new online service right when all this stuff was due. So we put it off, and in putting it off, we tried to perfect it even a little further. So in March, we finally had all the pieces together, and we rolled out the service on April 1, 2015. We've had, I think, 9 services submitted, and through those 9 services, there was quite a few lessons learned, and as a result, even though we already had the hot topics kind of set up for this time, it couldn't have been more timely, because we have modified the SID to accommodate some of the little quirky things about trying to upload an Excel spreadsheet and the SID online. We had some service failures about a week and a half ago, and we're working to correct that and also improve our instructions on the SID so there won't be those pitfalls again. The other thing I want to remind you is the RI online, as well as the RI form, is not really so much to summarize in entirety your RI. It was really built as a tool for our inspectors to use to see if there's any flags that would make them look further and actually do a review. So I know that when we had our paper form, there were a lot of comments that, hey, we need a little comment field to explain ourselves, because sometimes a no or a yes just doesn't cut it. And You know, if you're trying to summarize your report, that could be true, but what we're really trying to do, it's a tool for the inspector to see if further review is required. Here, because of the way we set up the form, and you know, you don't get served up questions that don't apply quite often, so it may be a little easier to move through the service and you don't feel compelled to write as much. And I know that Mark Peterson on numerous occasions have heard feedback that we need more room to write on the form. You know, your report is really where you talk about the overall, what's going on with the remediation. Right to your heart's content there. And that's where it belongs. We don't really want to see it like written on the form, because to my inspector and reviewer counterparts, that might raise a flag that wasn't necessarily there before if you just answered yes or no. Let's see. Is there anything else that you wanted me to cover? All right. Without further ado, we're going to start with the SID component, because you have to have your case inventory document all ready to go before you start your online service. So we're going to start there.
Okay, thanks a lot, Elaine, Pessy, for starting. Again, my name's Atwood Davis. I'm with the Bureau of Inspection and Review. Up on the screen right now is my contact information should you wish to get in touch with me. If you do get in touch with me, I'll do my best to help you out however possible. Just before I get started, I'd like to say a quick hello to the webinar audience. I'm waving right now. You can't see me. It's just one of the features. I tried to get them to get a webcam so that you could see the speakers, but it fell through. It's actually beneficial for our part, because if they got a shot at this moneymaker, they probably would immediately click out of the training and lose all this important information. So why am I here? That's more of a question for Elaine. Why am I here? They've asked me to come here and talk about case inventory document, give you some tips, some helps, let you know some of the problems that we've seen with the SIDs that have come in with our current services. One of the 9 that have successfully made it in. 9, okay, sorry, didn't want to shortchange it. So up on the screen now is what's representative of our new electronic SID. If you're going to come in with the service now, you have to use the new version of the SID. That old version of the SID, the 3-column Excel spreadsheet that was entirely focused on text, you can't use it. Part of the reason you can't use it is those first 6 things that are in red. That is what we're capturing in NGEMS as data. We'll have the ability to regenerate and produce this information back to you as a data miner report in the future. So that's why you have to use the new SID. But like I said, we've come a long way from the first one. The other reason why we switched to this particular model of the SID is us in inspection and review, simply put, we couldn't get our job done. We couldn't get what we needed from the LSRPs because it was so subjective. So what we did was we changed it all to try and be drop-down text box format so that you mandatorily had to go in and fill out a box for us. That's how you end up with this monstrosity. But it is beneficial. Our inspectors look at the SID 100% of the time. They're looking at each AOC as a snapshot and trying to determine whether or not a more thorough, in-depth review needs to take place. Our reviewers look at the SID 100% of the time. They're doing it before they start their review to get a snapshot of what's taking place with the AOC as an introduction before they delve into whatever review we've asked them to do. In terms of the case inventory document, the SID instructions are available in the tab located at the bottom of the spreadsheet. We ask you to read them, whether you've done 1 SID or 100 SID, please focus on it. Please take the time just to read what we intend you to fill out. The instructions are the culmination of about 4 or 5 individuals sitting in a room trying to explain what each column means to us and what we want from you. And by the time we were done, we were high-fiving each other. I'm pretty sure there was a chest bump or 2. We thought we nailed it. If we didn't nail it and it's still not clear to you, shoot me an email, let me know. I'm open to suggestions. We can change it for the sake of making it more clear. We want you to remember to populate each column of the SID when filling it out, unless the instructions state you can leave it blank. An example of columns like that are additional comments, additional exposure route, order of magnitude if one wasn't done. You can leave those columns blank. For the AOC Details column, in the next version of the SID, we're changing it to be called AOC Description. We were having some confusion with what folks thought the AOC Details actually meant, so we're going to try and clarify it. We have version 1.4 of the SID getting ready to roll out, hopefully tomorrow. So that version will say AOC Description instead of AOC Details. But for this particular column, what we're asking you to do is provide some details to distinguish between multiple AOCs. Example of this would be if you have multiple floor drains at a building or multiple buildings with floor drains, you would say floor drains in warehouse 2 or dumpsters at the north end of the property. In this particular column, if you have tanks, we want you to give us the details about the tanks, provide the number, the sizes, the contents. If you want to give us the US registration number, that's always proven to be helpful and effective. What we don't want you to do is put the overflow from the activity column, which is that last column where you get to free type. Don't put it here. We don't want you to tell us about the investigation in this column, okay? This is simply a description of what the AOC is. For AOCs in general, each AOC should have its own row in the SID. Do not use multiple rows for a single AOC. Do not change the AOC ID in future submittals. That AOC ID is the first column. That's where you write AOC 1. Once you assign AOC 1, leave it AOC 1. This is how we adequately track the AOC through time. A reminder, this is data that we are capturing. If you change the number, it will reflect that additional AOC came into us, and then when it comes time for you to issue RAOs, you may not update the status. We'll make you leave your case open because you have AOCs that are still pending and have never been resolved. Scott Terrell is going to talk a little bit more about this in depth. At least he should. Thumbs up? Okay, yeah. So example one of the things that we saw. Basically at the top, do not do this. For the purpose of this particular screenshot, I moved the contaminated media column all the way into the right so we can kind of show you what's going on. But as you can see, we have, what's up?
Just tell them the handout. It doesn't go over your slides because they're all looking at them now.
Okay, the handout does not go over my slides. So, yeah, for the next one. So don't panic. What we're seeing is AOC 1 listed out twice here. It turns out these are for the same AOC. The particular LSRP did this for a specific reason, that he wanted to depict soils and groundwater separately. He's not entirely wrong in wanting to do that. The problem is groundwater. Groundwater should always be its own AOC in the SID. Always. You should always break it out. Our instructions in the instruction tab say so. Divide it. I'll give you an example what it should look like if the groundwater contamination is linked to a specific AOC, if it's linked to multiple discharges, or if it's from an off-site source. Because there's no better time to say this since I'm talking about groundwater. If you have LNAPL or DNAPL at your site, it is groundwater contamination, regardless of dissolve phase being present or not. Just acknowledge that LNAPL and DNAPL is covered under the groundwater guidance document for site investigation, RI, RA. In our particular service, we ask you up front, which Scott will cover, are you dealing with groundwater contamination? Are you dealing with soils? Are you dealing with mixed media? If you say soils because you think LNAPL or DNAPL is just soils, you will never see another DNAPL or LNAPL question in the service, and that will cause you to have an inaccurate submittal. And we don't want you to do that. So LNAPL, DNAPL, it means groundwater. So this is what we do want you to do in the SID when you have groundwater contamination. Examples 1 and 2 are linked together. That first one's depicting mixed media. That's not what's branching out separate as groundwater. That's what the actual tanks is. AOC 2 is how it should look if you're saying groundwater contamination is coming from a specific AOC. You see groundwater associated with those tanks. The media is saying groundwater. AOC 3, environmental media, media groundwater. The AOC details, soon to be AOC description, says groundwater. That's how it should be depicted if you have multiple discharges at the site, or you're saying your AOC is for groundwater across the site-wide. If you have groundwater contamination coming from an off-site source, we expect to see the AOC type, environmental media, groundwater. PC and groundwater from an off-site source, please remember to insert your own contaminant that you believe is coming from an off-site source. Now, one of the questions that we get always is, well, if you're saying mixed media for the contaminant type, doesn't that include groundwater? Yes, it does. Yes, we still want you to branch it out because groundwater has the ability to move at a slower pace than soils. Okay? If you have an AOC that's just soils only and never impacted groundwater, it would be listed here, and the contaminated meter would just be soils. Another example of what not to do. We had this one come in. LSRP just decided to have the same AOC listed out 3 times, and for the life of us, we couldn't figure out why this happened. Lo and behold, it happened because of the activity column. The department acknowledges that the new version of the SID is not printer friendly. We don't want you to print it out. We have no intentions of us ever printing it out. We will look at it online. We will look at it electronically. This particular LSRP broke it down into 3 separate rows because that way when he printed it out, it was much more neater. Okay, don't do that. Another complaint that we get is when I'm typing in the SID column and the column for activity, and I finish and I click out, my text disappears at the bottom. The department's aware of that. My staff is aware of that. When we look at your SID electronically, we will click into the column so that we can see the rest of your text. If you simply don't like it, you have the ability to expand the cell. Simply move your cursor to the top of the screen. In between the letters, you'll get the expansion icon, click and drag. It's the same thing for the width and for the height, except for the width would be in the numbers on the left. These particular cells do feature wraparound text, okay? So the more you type, it'll just keep going in there and it'll keep expanding. We'll have the ability to see what you're writing. With that being said, just because you can write a lot in here does not mean we want you to. We're having a problem with getting entire stories from LSRPs that's just complete overkill. What we want from you is to provide just the high points per each AOC. We want you to briefly describe the conditions of each AOC. Don't repeat information that was covered in a previous column. There's no need to say it twice. We're not looking for a complete history. Just give us what has taken place during that current remedial phase. That's all we need. Make it concise. Try and focus on just the high points. I want you to think of it this way. If you hit lines 4 and 5 in this activity column, when you hit line 5, if you're still typing strong, just stop. You're going about it all wrong. We don't want a book. If you want to give us the whole history about it, you have an executive summary in your report. You have the full-blown report to do so. Just give us the limited high points. Think about it as, what do I need to tell them in 5 lines to accurately depict this AOC? What is the most important thing? Tell them about the receptors. Tell them about what's due next. If you didn't sample, tell us why. What is your justification for not sampling? These are the important things that we're looking at. To give you some examples, again, this is just the screenshot of the last 3 columns in the SID. Some great activity lines. Benzene detected above groundwater quality standards, but below the VI groundwater screening level. That is a beautiful line, because what that is telling us is, speaking directly to receptors, we have a problem, but there's no need to have to do any vapor intrusion. That's a perfect line. Soil and groundwater contamination delineation has been completed. Remedial action work plan is being prepared. You told us what was done. The RI is good. We don't have to worry about delineation. And you're telling us what's coming in next because remediation isn't complete for the area of concern. March 2014 PA identified AST as a potential AOC. No signs of a discharge. No staining around. We're not proposing anything further. You just justified why you don't have to do anything else. It's great. PASI conducted along with the background information investigation, PCE, coming from an off-site source, REO to be issued. That is perfect. And it's perfect because from reading that, it tells me everything I need to know about this particular AOC. When you say PASI was conducted, I know that you're telling me specifically I looked at all of my AOCs and we're not contributing to the groundwater problem. When I see background or SI, you're telling me the highest concentrations are off-site coming onto the site. You've accurately summed up what's going on with this AOC, and you did it in less than 3 lines. That's what we're looking for. Stop giving us executive summaries. We don't need that. I feel like I'm talking specifically to Dick Katz, and I don't know why. Of course. Okay. With that being said, we do know that we have some issues with the current SID format. We have some issues with cutting and pasting into the document. And there is the potential to see red text as you go. I'm going to turn it over to Scott Terrell just briefly so that he can explain this to you because it's far more technical than I'm capable of handling.
Okay. Thanks, Atwood. I appreciate it. Joe, if you could bring up the SID. Okay. So how are we going to do this? Okay, so Joe, one thing we did in the SID that's going to be released tomorrow is we have added in some limitations that will show LSRP or somebody working in the SID that we have some technical limits about how many characters can be pasted in. If you can scroll over to column 1 in the AOC ID, column A, sorry. That's one thing this does because of its restriction, as it does hop around. Yeah. So if you can open up the Word document. Okay, so Joe's going to take copy. This is an unnecessarily long AOC description. It's actually the top sentence. The very top sentence. Sorry. Yep. And he's going to copy that. So that we had LSRP or their staff copy out of a PDF or a Word document and paste into the SID, and it's caused us some problems. So what Joe did was he took the, if you do that again slowly in the second cell, so tab out of that cell, yeah, copy, right, and then right-click and just hold it. Yeah, copy it, go ahead and copy it. Go to the spreadsheet, and then right-click and then just right-click, hold it. Okay, there's 2 options. Right, that one, keep source formatting and match destination. You need to match destination if you copy and paste. Otherwise, we get all kinds of garbage formatting that our system can't handle. So go ahead and paste that, right? So you see the text turn red, and that's an indication that for the AOC ID, there's more than 50 characters in there. So please look out for that because our field in our system can't handle more than 50 characters. So you will actually end up being stopped at the upload phase if you have more than 50 characters in that field. Same is true for the AOC description field, 2 columns to the right there, except that column, it's a 500 character description limit on that. So again, just Joe, right-click right there and then paste, yes. Match destination formatting, go ahead and paste. And you'll see the text is black there because it is less than 500 characters. And I can't emphasize enough, again, what Atwood said, is they want to look and go boom, 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 right down the row, right in the SID, and they want to be done with it. They don't want to read a book in there. They want to see that's 2 6,000-gallon gasoline tanks, like maybe behind the building or something like that. You know, we don't need the entire history of, you know, when it was found, you know, in 1923, this was whatever. That's not for that. That's for your report. Same for the AOC ID. Atwood gave a good example, AOC 1 in the first row, you know, AOC 2 in the second row. That's wonderful. If you want to give them a little more description, that's fine, but just remember you're limited to 50 characters the first, 500 in the second. And your activity should be brief, also. Your activity should, will be allowed to hold a lot more characters, but we're looking at a 4,000 character limit in activity. 4,000 characters is a page and a half of 12-point text. They don't need that. They're looking for what happened between the last submission and this submission in that SID. They don't need 4,000 characters even though it can accept it. So you'll see your text turn red if it's too large, either when you type or when you paste in and tab out of these. While I'm here, I just wanted to mention we did have an issue with, not text-wise, but there's an incident number column, okay? And the incident number column is just for incident numbers. Incident numbers for that AOC, if there's more than one incident number, separate them with a comma. But it's not for TMS numbers, it's not for descriptions, it's just for incident numbers. If you have closure numbers or something else you want to put in there, put it in the activity. But the incident number column is specially handled, and it just needs to have incidents in there. Is there anything else you wanted me to cover? Just again, beware of pasting. Actually, Joe, if you want to, can you copy the second block of text, that long block of text? And Joe's going to take the whole thing. This block of text is an example it's from the rules, but it could be from a report, right? So he's going to copy that, and he's going to hover over and then right-click, and then you're going to hover over the first, right? So we just destroyed that SID, okay? If he pastes that, he pastes it into 8, 9, 10, 11, 12, 13, 14, right? So be aware if you have returns, you're going to just blow the thing up. So, and again, like Atwood said, why am I pasting in here? And if you do paste in, make it concise and pick that second option, match destination formatting, right? It won't work either with returns, right? If you have to do it there, you need to go up into the formula bar up top. Can you hover into the formula bar up top? It's the F, where the FX is.
Above the yellow line.
Above the yellow, right? Yeah, right. And then right-click in there and paste that. You could do it in there, but you still may pick up formatting, that we just don't want. So anyway, you can paste that way. It won't go into every single cell, that way. But if you're pasting something that has tremendous number of, a tremendous amount of text in it, again, you just need to be thinking about what you're doing. And please don't, just keep it small. Yes?
Quick question.
Just do undo.
Hold on. Say question. I heard you say that. In between, but it's not.
Come on, do some magic tricks.
Okay, yeah, we're getting the microphone right now, so someone has a question.
Thanks.
It's probably for Atwood.
Well, maybe for you. This is all going online. You submit the first CID for PASI, and you identify what you did in the activity section. Now you're coming in for another CID for the RI. Do I still have on this CID what I said on my PASI, or has that been lost now?
Here you go, Atwood.
It's perfect. That's going to go, can you go back to the slideshow presentation, Joe? You're giving me a perfect segue into the next version. Statuses. Okay. We want you to have your SID to be based on solely the remedial phase that you're submitting. Okay. Some of the information is going to be the same no matter what. But each time you get to the activity column, I don't want you to keep expanding on what was previously provided. Only give us what's for that submittal that's coming in. Which brings us to the status column. Okay. We want you to update the status of the AOC and the status date with each remedial phase. And by status, that's the column where you assign the SI, the RI, the RA. And it should always be the most advanced remedial phase completed. I feel like I'm committed. I heard that, Dick. He's taking shots at me, folks. Much needed. What we mean by most advanced remedial phase completed is if you come in with an SI, an RI, and RA for a particular AOC, your status of that document would be the RA, because that is the most advanced remedial phase. You would also update the date of the submission as you go, and you need to update this every single time you submit a report for an AOC or for a site. Okay? Again, the status date is the submission. So to bring it back to the question that we had, your SID is going to be reflecting in what you're coming in with of that remedial phase. If your document of your SID or your report only focuses on a couple of the AOCs, you're going to modify your SID like so. So we're going to say the 3,000 gallon gasoline, the loading docks, they're in the SI phase. Their status is 5/13/2015. The dumpsters were previously ruled out for sampling in the PA, so its AOC status would stay PA with the status date of when the PA was submitted. Okay? That's how you're breaking it down. That's the portions of it that you can leave the same and provide to us with each SID. But if the statuses, the activities, what you've done for that AOC change, then you have to update the SID solely. Okay? Might as well.
Wait a minute.
We're waiting for the microphone.
All right. Since we can't print these out,
Yes,
and I've tried on several occasions, and I agree you can't print them out.
we acknowledge that.
How do we keep track of these things so that we can provide the information to our clients, as well as maintaining files that we can refer back to and see what we did so that we can update them properly?
Our recommendation is to save it for yourself electronically or on a disk, whatever your method is, and save it as separate workbooks as you go. It can be the PA for this site, the SI for this site, and the SID. We recommend that you provide it to your client in electronic version as well, not a paper form.
So that we have to do it on Excel, and then we also have to do it online, making all the same
When you
entries
go to
for
do it
150
online,
AOCs.
no, when you do it online, what you're doing is uploading your Excel spreadsheet.
All right, thank you.
Okay.
How does that interface with the annual remediation fee? Originally, we used to say, I have 5 AOCs, and oh, by the way, I have impacted media groundwater.
Mhm.
Well, suppose that each one of my AOCs, the way I'm breaking them out for this, has a groundwater. All of a sudden, I have 10 AOCs. Now, do I have 10 AOCs and groundwater media, or groundwater media goes away, or something else?
Okay. In terms of the SID doesn't affect the billing in any way, shape, or form. That's done with the annual remediation fee form. But from your perspective of counting, groundwater is always going to be one fee associated with the media. Everything else, when we say contaminated area concerns, is reflected directly of soil contamination. Okay? Unless you have a sediment or surface water, again, that's a single fee that's broken out.
Mr. Davis, when you upload that Excel spreadsheet, are the columns going to auto-populate to the right? Sorry, to the right columns?
Yes.
If we label it the proper, AOC.
Yeah, the columns themselves are locked down. You can't change them. But if
when we upload it,
if you get our current version of the SID online, if you grab it from us, you populate it, you save it, then when you go to upload it to the service, it'll be reflecting exactly what you put in.
Okay.
And you'll see that.
Okay, so get it from, there's a whatever on the forms or whatever that
Yes,
says CID.
it's on the forms page. Yes.
Okay, thank you.
We got one up here, Tessie.
Hi. So if you're uploading, when you upload this, because I was thinking about what you said earlier about keeping the past versions in a workbook, are you uploading a sheet, or are you uploading the Excel file? So if we kept it that way, we're going to have to create a separate.
Yeah, you'll be
version.
uploading the file.
Okay. All
Okay.
right.
Now, recognize right now we have the URI service. We're capturing your SID. We're getting the data. It's going to be there for us. Okay. When the rest of our services come online, we'll be capturing the SID for those phases as well. But this just happens to be the first service that's ready, and I'm not promising when the other ones will be.
All right.
Anybody else?
I think that's it. But you're not oh, you are leaving.
I am leaving.
He is leaving. He has.
Sorry, folks. Got a daycare issue. Got to pick the boy up.
All right.
Thank you so much.
Thank you, Mr. Atwood. I mean, Mr. Davis. All right. Next, we have Scott Tyrell, and he'll take you through the RIR issues. Oh, wait a minute. Before you leave, there's only one question, Joe? Okay. So the question, Atwood, is if we submitted a report other than RI, do we submit the CD electronically?
No, if the SID is not for the RI, it would just be coming in with the disk as
Just
a regular
the disk.
submittal. Yeah.
Okay, it's only for an RI.
Okay, if it is for the RI and they're doing the electronic service, they're going to upload it directly to the
Okay.
service.
All right, and then how will CDs be available for OPRA requests?
Okay, when the requests come into us, our folks in our OPRA office will be responsible for pulling that information out of NGEMS and making it available. They're currently providing it on a disk.
Okay.
Okay?
All right, off he goes. Did you want to add?
I just want to add a little brief synopsis of paper versus electronic, because currently we are allowing both paper versions of the RI reports to be submitted as well as the optional RI online service. Right now we're in our, let's see how it's working. Do we need to tweak it at all with software upgrades, etc.? But there will be some time in the near future where we will post in the New Jersey Register, and pursuant to our rules, we are to indicate 90 days prior to mandating an online service where the paper version will go away. So, sometime in the future, we will post in the New Jersey Register, a listserv will go out, and then we will indicate that is mandatory. Now, who is it mandatory for? It's mandatory for the LSRP cases, traditional oversight cases that have to deal with coordination with EPA and other federal government agencies. They are not mandated to go through our inspection and review. They have a case manager. So those reports will not be coming in through this service. If you are in direct department oversight, you do have a case manager, but we have an LSRP, so those will be required to come through the service. Yes. Hold on a second. Tessie's got to run and see you.
Who?
When you mean paper copy, do you mean disk?
Well, do you get reports that are just a disk along, and that is acceptable? So sometimes it is a disk, sometimes it's the good old-fashioned stack of paper. So let's just say it's not coming in by clicking on something like an email address and go into DP online. So anything other than that, because CDs come in all the time that have the PDF of the report, has the forms, has the SID, and all of that stuff. That is fine. But when we mandate, you need to go on the online service and fill out the form and upload the report and upload the SID.
Okay, so then the CDs will go away also when
Correct.
the mandate comes down
Correct.
eventually.
So
Okay.
that's the perk of going online. We get
Well,
rid of
yeah, and then
paper,
there's a
we get
data
rid of
connection
CDs.
speed that you got to worry about that, unless you got a T1 line, you're going to take some time to upload it.
Right, and hopefully we don't have too many dial-up LSRPs. Eek. Dick Cass, he could be one of our dial-up LSRPs.
Oh, I don't know, that would require knowing how to dial. Not just, okay, if we have, we're in the position of uploading the information, we don't have to send you a CD or a paper copy.
Correct.
Does that relieve us from having to send the CD to the municipality, the county, and everybody else in the universe?
No.
And there are a couple of questions online, but I think we're going to let Scott get going, and then
Right.
we'll try to answer them all before
Just
the end.
one other segue to Dick. We will sometime in the future start trying to serve up some of the PDFs through Data Miner. And when we get that up and running and we have more of these electronic items that we get and we can run reports on them and serve them up, we could also then say to the municipal officials, if you need it, you can go to this location and get it. So that is our future plan. One of the reasons why we want to go electronic is we can start serving up this information to you in reports as opposed to coming in doing file reviews and doing some other items. So we're trying to make it more efficient, but there is a time to which we need to get enough information in that format to be useful.
All right, go for it.
All right, I'm Scott Tyrell, Bureau of Information Systems. We're going to go over the online remedial investigation report. One thing I wanted to mention before I get into this is there was another part of the SID. We had an issue where the LSRP input the incident number into the first row, and then if you're familiar, he did a copy down, and he wanted to put that incident in several AOCs as he went down. And what happens if you copy down in Excel is Excel tries to be very helpful, and it's a great program, but if you're not careful, what it does is it actually increments the number as if you're counting up. So he told us that he had an incident happening, every second, for after that first incident. So it's just not something you want to do on a SID because it looks really bad. So just look at, the SID before you submit it. Make sure that Excel didn't do anything that you weren't expecting. Okay. Go ahead. Oh, I got it here. I think. Okay. So this is very similar to our presentation last year. The RI accepts the new electronic SID, allows the submission of very large RIR files. We were able to upload with no trouble at all 450 megabyte files. It depends on your internet speed whether that would be successful. We already had someone who did not upload the RI report during their service. Anyone that's on the webinar or in the room, if you can't upload your RI, please let me know because I really want to see what the situation is because we really didn't have any trouble with that. Because we're taking the questions as data, we put out a report for our inspectors that streamlines the submission inspection. Okay. For those of you who aren't familiar with DP Online, on the upper right-hand side, you would go to our website, NJDEP-Online.com, and on the upper right-hand side is login. If you already have a login, if you don't have a login, on the lower right-hand side is request access to DP Online. You click that, and it'll step you through the process and get you an account. As described in the service, in order to certify an RI submission, you need to be an LSRP, You need to have your license number saved into your DEP Online account. The description of that is in the RI instructions, as Elaine described where to find those on the forms page. It's also described in the retention release instructions and the remediation fee form instructions online. Okay, once you get an account and you log in, the system allows you to configure services. And the main link for LSRPs so far is they would go to the undersite remediation and they would add LSRP related services in the upper left-hand side. And that is for services which are certified by LSRPs at the moment. So clicking on that link brings you to LSRP service selection. Anybody who's done a retention, release, or remediation fee service is familiar with this page. In the middle, the RI submission was put right in the middle. Plan is, as we add additional services, RAW is planned to be next. It'll go actually inside that link, and we'll start to put an appendix on that to show you what's available. So you would click the radio button and click the continue button in the lower right-hand side to go into the RI submission. Okay, so this is very important. The instructions page are useful because they tell you what files you need. They tell you what browser you can use, what is compatible. If you use an incompatible browser, you may be stopped, especially at the contacts page. You may get all the way to contacts and not be able to continue. So be aware of that. Look at the browsers. We've had really good luck with Firefox, and the new Internet Explorer is working well also. So to go into specific, you want to get ready. You're in the instructions page, but before you go any further, you want to have everything ready that you need. Any files you need, give them a unique name. Get the files in a folder that's easy to get onto your, it's easy to find on your computer. During the RI extension, an LSRP filed 10 RI extensions. They called me up and they said, I think I uploaded the wrong files to one of the RI extensions. I said, well, that's no problem. Give me the name of the file and I can tell where it is in which of the 10 submissions. And they said, the files for the 10 submissions are named exactly the same. So we had to dig into each of the submissions to find the one that was uploaded to the wrong PI. So you need to uniquely identify your file so you know what you're uploading, and we can find it if there's a problem later. Okay, so back to this. So we have your files ready, and this gives you, what do I need, right? If it's more than a year after the trigger date, I need a PDF of the initial or updated receptor evaluation. I need my SID spreadsheet saved out, not as a PDF, but as a spreadsheet, as a workbook, as Atwood said. You need an EDD zip file. And if there are multiple EDDs, you put them in folders and you zip all the folders into the file. And then our system disassembles them on our side. You need the RI PDF saved to your computer. And then there's the authorization form, which is the signature of the person remediating that you're going to put into the service. And then the service will also force certain attachments, certain uploads to happen based on questions you answer. Could be a CEA is required, and it could be that a vapor concern response action form is required. So if they're going to be required, then you need to have those ready to be able to just blow right through the service. So that's right in the instructions page, right up front. Anybody that has an account, go and look at it. So next we're going to establish where the RI is filed as we step through the service. We're going to choose our PI, choose our case activity, and the type of RI that we're doing. In the facility selection page, in previous services, you would have already needed to add your PI to your facilities. In the RI, it's actually possible to click the link at the bottom of the page. It says click here and add your PI within the service. Either way, if you have a PI, you'll see it here. If you don't, you can add it and continue to move through the service. So we're using our test PI, SRP, SWEP, test PI, but that could be, gas station, chemical company, what have you. So you click the radio button and click the continue button on the lower right-hand side. Then you have the case selection screen. If you don't have an active case, you will not see anything on this page. In order to have an active case, a CDN or GIN would have needed to be filed. It would have needed to be a historic case. We answer a lot of questions where somebody wants to file a retention form or a fee form, and they get to this page and they have nothing. And in that case, something didn't happen that should have happened. Maybe case assignment didn't create it yet. Maybe a CDN wasn't filed. Maybe historically, something wasn't brought forward. So if you have a problem here, you need to contact BCANE to make sure that you have your case. But at the RF phase, it's likely that your case will be here. Our example has 2 cases. Make sure you pick the right case, the most important thing. Actually, the PI is the most important thing, but when you're here, pick the right case. So we give you case name, we give you document titles. It should be incident numbers, closure numbers, old PI names, names of whatever. There's a lot of information there. There's a case tracking number. If you have any questions, contact BCANE because you got to pick the right case because we have to invalidate the submission if you pick the wrong case or the wrong PI. We won't have any choice. Okay. If you pick a case and it's not ready, you could get red messages. Red messages mean you will not be able to go any further in the service until you correct them. In this case, a remediation fee form was not filed. So the system recognizes that. And it recognizes there's no LSRP retained. So an LSRP needs to be retained, and a fee service needs to be run on that case prior to you doing an RI. Shouldn't be a problem. RI is way down in the process, right? But some of them happen really fast. So you just need to be aware that those other pieces need to happen. Have a case. If you get those red messages and you're an LSRP, 10 minutes later you can come back to this page and you can get through here. You can file the form, both of those forms, and you can get right through this. Well, that brings up the point of, so now I have to leave the service. Can I get back to it? 1, you haven't done much here. It doesn't really matter. 2, in your workspace, every time you advance past a page, it's saved. And you'll see in My Services in Progress, you'll be able to click the ID number for this submission and go back to the page you left. Actually, the last page that you passed. So once you have retained and you have a fee service, you can continue. And the next page you get to after clicking continue is what type of RI am I filing? Is it for an AOC or the entire site? So the AOC, I'm just going to read the whole thing. For AOC, use this service when the RI for this submission is complete for 1 or more contaminated areas of concern or media. And then the important thing, if a PA as defined under that rule was conducted for the contaminated site, and you are addressing only some of the CAOCs, then select that radio button. So even if there was a PA, but you're just doing the RI for a couple of AOCs to get them off the books, do RI AOC. All right, so choose your type of submission type and continue. The submission project name auto-populates. I don't think anyone's changed this that's run an RI before, and I'll explain what it is. So it says I'm doing an RI. I'm doing it for AOC. I'm not doing it for entire site. The number sign, the number after the number sign, is the service ID. It's where you would find the service in your workspace. So it's our number, it's DEP's number, and it's just a unique ID for anything that you do online. And then it goes at, and then the PI number, and then the PI name, and all that pre-populates. So I just typed in the name will pre-populate, but that'll pre-populate for you. If you want to change that, you can. You can do whatever you want. That's your territory. You can add comments if you want to. The comments will migrate to the comments field in our our submission that we receive. If you're happy with the name, then you click continue. And then next is where is the site? Let's confirm the address, blocks and lots, and coordinates. So you'll go into this page, and what you'll see is grayed out, okay? Green text, gray fields, you're just reviewing it. Am I at the right place? Did I pick the right PI? It happens. Something similarly named, I typoed a number, and I realized that is not my site. So you can get out and start a new one. But you're going to verify that this information is correct. If you do think that you picked the right PI and you have the wrong information, you need to contact Bureau of Case Assignment Initial Notice to get the information corrected. So now I'm going to be scrolling down the page. Okay, so I'm going to scroll down, right? And then I love block and lot information. It's going to display block and lots that we have for this based on, say, a CDN, for example, based on a GIN. And you could say, oh, well, that's correct or that's not correct. You can add blocks and lots. You can remove blocks and lots if you want to suggest the blocks and lots need to be changed. So hopefully they're right. Continue to scroll down. We give you the coordinates. So you have the coordinates next and the map. So we're looking for the center of the site or the center of the facility. The center of the site, if it's a defined site which is undeveloped or completely developed, or the center of the facility. So if your red plus is not at the center of the site, center of the facility is defined there, you can go ahead and update the information and we'll take a look at it. So this is our test area, so there are no coordinates set up for it. So if you click undo location and then click on the map, you'll get a little white pop-up there, and it'll tell you what it thinks the street and zip are right there. It'll recenter the map on there, and then if you click set location, it'll pop in the coordinates. If on the lower left-hand side for those on the webinar, you see the coordinates just set in. You can set the coordinate source as digital image, and then you can pick, did I pick either the center of the site or the center of the facility? And that'll give us the new information. And one of the RIs, one of the locations was reset to be 2 miles away from where we had it located based on what I believe was a CDN that came in. So it's critical, you got to look at that. And if you need to change it to way away, you can just grab the map and move it to where you need it to go, and you can zoom in and out with the zoom on the left-hand side there. This page checks that your coordinate location is within the municipality specified above. So that is what it's looking for at a minimum. So you can't move it across state. It will not work. There's big problems. Contact Case Assignment Initial Notice if your site has big coordinate problems. Down at the bottom, you click I hereby certify the location is correct once you have it set up the way you need to, and you click continue. Next page is contacts. We're going to collect the person remediating. What you have is person remediating tab. In this case, I had 2 responsible parties, the department I identified. The responsible parties are only there to allow you to copy them if they are a person remediating. So you can click on those tabs. If one of them is somebody you need, you can hit the drop down, insert from existing contacts. And in this case, I'm highlighting number 3. I choose number 3, and my information populates. So I'm utilizing the system to speed your way through contacts here. So check out those responsible parties. If one of them is the person remediating, put them in there through that insert from existing contacts. If not, go ahead and type them in. Whenever all the information is in there for the required fields, you'll click continue. And next we're up to the SID. The SID, we upload the spreadsheet. It looks at the system to see if there's existing AOCs that have been uploaded before. And then if there are AOCs related to regulated tanks, you pick those tanks out of registration for your AOC. Okay, so here's our SID upload page. It's just for the SID. You click the Browse button. When you click the Browse button, you get your standard dialog box. You would navigate to where your SID spreadsheet is. Remember, it's uniquely named so that it's easy to find. I have SID Federal Tank and Groundwater at RI PI and then my PI number. So it's specific to this report and that PI number. So if I ever, can't find it, I can search for it. No problem. I can call up inspection review and they'll have that name. Okay, it cranks away a little bit, chewing up the SID, breaking it into pieces, putting it in the system. When it's done, the continue button will appear and the upload file name will also appear, and then you know it's done. If there's a problem with the SID, you'll get error messages. It'll tell you there's a problem with it. And if there's a problem, contact us. And our information is that there's a help in the upper right-hand side. You can click that help and you'll get an email link where you can send us an email. I have my phone. I have the Bureau phone number. On the front page of this, you can give us a call. So SID uploads successfully, and you click continue. So what it does now is it shows you part of the SID, the first part of the SID, and you're confirming that every row in your SID ends up in here. So that's really the purpose of this, is did my SID end up in the system, right? So my SID has two AOCs, AOC 1 and AOC 2. I have groundwater, like Atwood talked about, and the first AOC is a federally regulated storage tank. Okay? The system does check and see if there are existing AOCs that I uploaded. If I'm doing an RI for an AOC and I come in to do another AOC, it's going to check the system and see what I uploaded before. So I go, well, I think there are AOCs. If it tries to match, and then it'll tell you that it matches if it matches, if it finds matches. But if you say, hey, there are AOCs in there that I'm expecting to see, you say no. In the new AOC column, I've picked no, and that will enable a drop-down. You can hit the drop-down, and you can see whether the system recognizes other AOCs. Anything here would have had to have been from another upload. So if there's never been an upload to this case, you'll never see any AOCs in here. But if you have done an upload, you can say, hit that drop-down. What does the system think is in there? There's also an AOC report in this page too, but this gives you a good idea of what the system thinks is in there. So if I don't want to make a new AOC for number 1, I pick AOC 1 out of my list, and it'll link your SID row to that. If you don't rename things in your SID, it'll say that it matches existing ones. You'll get more used to that as time goes by. So this is wide. As we talked about, the SID is very wide. There's a lot of information in it. So it is easy to see on screen, but for this presentation, we broke it into pages. So now I'm scrolling to the right as I go through it. This is the middle part of the SID, AOC type and AOC description. Keep your description short. Whether the AOC has found contaminated. And then there's a link in the middle lower part that is the AOC report, and that's a comprehensive report of everything we have on the AOCs that were uploaded. Just like that drop-down, except it gives you all of the columns that are here. Not everything in the SID, but all the first 8 columns are in that. As we scroll to the right, again, we see the AOC status date, and then the incident comm center number that Atwood was describing. In addition to the columns that Atwood said are consumed, the incident number is also put in our system too. That's why it's important to get the correct incident number and not to copy it down, because the person that copied the incident number down, put 4 incidents into our system that we then had to remove 3 of them. So it's very important. This data is going all over our system. You are responsible, for this data now. So once you're satisfied, yes, my AOCs are showing up and everything in my SID is on here, and you're satisfied, click continue. Yes?
I have one question. One question about that. Let's say.
Do you want to go here? Maybe it's dead. Lane has a question.
So let's say I am doing RI online, but also I'm filing an RAO at the same time. What should my status of my SID be? RAO. So it's really the latest status that you have. So we're okay if you're uploading an RI here and the status is RAO.
Shouldn't that vary by AOC?
Yes.
Yes, it might. Dick had said, should it vary by AOC? And the answer is yes, but anything that is in an RAO status, you would say that. I don't know if it works.
We'll take one more.
There's another question. Oh, it's working.
Would it then be a duplicate submittal? You'd be submitting an RIR, and then you're also down, in the same pipeline, you're submitting the REO?
You're not submitting the
I-
with the RA.
The main reason why I brought this up was we did have one of our submittals was an RI, but it also was one of those cut and scrapes that went all the way to the RAO. And the SID actually, the status was RI in all of them, but truly for that overall submittal, some of those AOCs had done all the way through to the filing of the RAO. So we're just saying here, when you're filing online and you have a status, it should be as far along for that AOC as it is.
That's an RAR. If you're submitting an RIR, it's electronically submitted, but he's actually, this general, or whatever it was submitted an RAR or REO. That's what you're telling me, cut straight. But then it's not an RIR anymore, it's an RAR. Why is he submitting it as an IR?
All right, so the question is a situation where it is, you're submitting an RI online, but what we were talking about, you were saying, well, it's really an RAR, RAO. Currently, we only have the RI up and running. So eventually, you'll be able to submit your SID as you go along. And what we're saying is for that AOC, just make sure you demarcate in at that time of the submittal where you're at for that AOC. So I don't know if this person added 2 lines, one that said it was RI and then one that said that it was a RAR and one that said that it was an RAO. It just really is a one-liner, and it should be the latest status.
If you've already done the RAR, why are you now submitting an RI?
Well, I think it's one of those where we have a lot of cases that give us the RI, RAR, RAO all at once. And that's what they were doing for this particular one. But their SID looked like it was an RIR because that's what they were trying to make the SID do through here. I'm just saying if you upload your SID and you are further along, you put your latest status for that subject item AOC. So they don't all have to be like, for Scott's example here, they were all in a status of RIR. We're not looking for that. We're looking for what the reality is for that AOC when you uploaded the SID.
All right, let's keep moving. We can ask more questions.
I don't want
at the
to
end.
beat that one to death, but there was one that I looked at. So they filed an RI online, but they had actually filed an RAO prior to filing the RI. And there's nothing I can do about that, but they reeled back the SID to RI when in fact they had already issued an RAO. So that's like ultimately like what I'm saying is like I can't control when they do it, but his AOC was already RAO'd. The RAO was on the street and it was marked RI in here because they were submitting it with an RI that they owed before the RAO, but they never submitted. Do you know what I'm saying? So if it's as advanced as it is, you're always okay. If I get an RI and it says RAO, great. I know an RAO was issued, right? So just it's advanced as what it is when you give it to us, whatever document it is, right? It's not good. Don't make it go backwards. And that's the main thing. Okay, keep it going. Yeah, we gotta move because we got a lot of slides. Okay, so I said I have a state or federally regulated tank. So the next page I see is tanks from the registration or registrations. Okay, so on the left-hand side is my AOC column, and it says select an AOC. What it does, it takes your SID and it goes which are federally or state regulated AOCs, and then it puts them in a drop down. I only had one, so I only have one choice. So my AOC includes tank 10 and tank 17 in my example, right? So I've picked my AOC in tank 10 and tank 17. If I had multiple AOCs, then I put my AOC next to whatever tanks are related to that AOC. Okay, we go into the RI details. I'm not trying to show you every question. The handout that you have and the instructions online show every question that's possible in the RI, and the indentations show you where it's skipping. It'll say if you choose yes, then you get another question. This has been described to me as similar to the way TurboTax works. You know, you answer a question, and depending on the way you answer, you may get additional pages, you may get fewer pages, you may get additional questions. The first person that was contacted, the first one said, yeah, it went really fast because I only saw what I needed to see. So we appreciated that. So we'll go in. The first is the RI details, site use. So it's called the primary page on the left-hand side. You would answer current site use, future site use. You would see the date remediation initiated. And again, that's there. It's not for you to populate, but it shows it to you. If you find a problem with that, you know, you can contact us, but that's there as, yeah, that's my case, right? So we'll continue down the page. We're scrolling down now. Probably the most important thing in this service is selecting the media that you're dealing with. So you pick soil, and you will only see, you will not see the groundwater questions. If you pick groundwater, you will not see the soil only questions. If you pick mixed media, you'll see the soil and the groundwater questions. So again, I'm not trying to show you every page, but you have to populate the questions that you do see, and questions may answer based on your answers. Okay, so I picked mixed media, so my next page is the soil page. And in this example, I'm saying, yes, I had contamination greater than the applicable remediation standard in the middle there. If I pick yes, then I get to answer contaminated soil conditions. And there's a drop-down list of contaminated soil questions, like I have contamination in the bedrock, for example. Once I finish with the soil page, because I picked mixed media, I get groundwater. The same type of thing. I have groundwater classifications. I have, am I exceeding remediation standards? I'm going to spend a little bit of time in this page. Okay, as we scroll down, I lost my highlighting, unfortunately, but as I go down, and there are 5 questions here, and depending on the way you answer them, you may be forced to upload a CEA. It's very important. Are groundwater concentrations greater than applicable remediation standards? Yes. Was the CEA fact sheet form submitted? That doesn't mean today. That means, is it on its way to the department by mail, or was it submitted previously and they're working on creating a CEA, or is there already a CEA? So if you have the CEA in your hand and you're ready to answer it, the answer to that question is a no. Somebody answered yes, and then they uploaded it, but it was no. We didn't have it yet, so the answer is no. Has the CEA previously been established? No. Is groundwater contamination due to natural background? No. Is groundwater contamination migrating on site? No. If those questions are answered that way, you're going to be asked for a CEA upload. You're going to be forced to do a CEA upload. So just be aware of that. Okay, scrolling down the page further. Is groundwater contamination greater than the visual? Yes. Was the vapor intrusion inspection conducted? Yes. Vapor intrusion conditions. I identified a vapor intrusion condition. Did I submit a form? It says no, okay? That set of questions will force you to upload the VC response action form. So be aware of that. You can do it. Go ahead and put it in there. Okay, moving on, ecological. I put this page in here just to say, if you didn't do an ecological evaluation, you answer no, and you just go right through. If you answer yes, you answer more questions, just as an example. So I say no, boom, I'm through, I'm done with it. Okay? Next page is remediation standards. Answer question about the remediation standards. I'm not going to go through every question. It's all in the instructions. Please log on, get an account if you don't have one, start a service, load a SID, run through it. Be satisfied, go back and forth, delete it when you're done, but look at it. Last one is the miscellaneous page, new information, dioxin, past deficiencies, a couple other questions. Another question over there. Can we go to the end? Okay. All right. Next, the attachment upload. So I answered questions that are forcing me to upload a CEA PDF, but I had that ready. I knew I had to do one, so I have it ready. And my VC response form. So those populate for you. It just comes right in there. I'm more than 1 year after the trigger date, so I need to go ahead and upload. I'm going to need to add an attachment for receptor evaluation. So I would go ahead and, I think I put this in the wrong place. I go ahead and click Add Attachment. I pick receptor evaluation. Oh, sorry, receptor evaluation updated in this case. Right? Find it. And then I click the Add Attachment button. And the receptor evaluation row comes in. It's very straightforward. You wait a minute or a few seconds. And then just like the other page, the file name will appear. You cycle through your required attachments. And when they're all in there, you click Continue. Okay, next is we had to get a special uploader because RI reports are very large and the department never had handled files this large before in uploads. The previous limit was 10 megabytes, sometimes 5 megabytes, and we have RI reports that are hundreds of megabytes. So if you still have problems uploading in this page, you have the opportunity to split the RI into 3 pieces. You know, and logically it may already be split into that. You can do a PDF for the RI, you can do a PDF for maps and figures, you can do a PDF for QA/QC if that's even required. So I'll show you this page, maybe. Okay. All right, so here's the RI attachment upload. Just so you know, it's called Jump Loader. You can open up the file manager on your computer. You can drag the file onto the drop files here in the middle there. You can click the plus and click Add, and you'll end up in your file manager just like before. The important thing to note here is in the files of type at the bottom, you need to choose files of all, type of all files. And that'll allow you to see every file in your computer so you can pick that PDF. Okay, you click Open just like any other file. It'll usually, just a few seconds, even faster than the other uploads, it'll go ahead and put the RI in there. You click the green button, it cranks through it. The RI report shows up at the bottom. When you're satisfied it's there, click Continue. The other thing I wanted to mention is the top of this page. Let me go back a couple slides. The top of this page, if you're having trouble in this page, you would choose, if you want to choose to divide your report, you can try to divide it, pick maps and figures, or pick data deliverables, which is the QA/QC. And you'll get 2 additional pages where you can upload smaller chunks of the report. So we haven't had anybody try to do that, but that's available to you. Just be aware of that. And so I'm just going to run through those again. Okay, certification. This is the first service where the LSRP that is certifying this must be the LSRP retained at that case. So you'll get a red message if you are not the LSRP. Okay, so the important thing to notice about the certification is above the blue bar at the bottom, you have the 2 questions I directly oversaw or I personally reviewed. You would choose one or both of those before going to the next step. which is you enter your you answer your challenge question. What is your favorite food in this case? You have to answer 5 challenge questions when you make an account. And you click submit, and it sees if your answer is correct. And if it's correct, it opens up the certification at the bottom. You would enter your certification PIN and move on. I'm not going to show, what would show now is a long summary of everything, every upload, the SID, every question that was answered in the service, everything about the location, everything that you did is reflected in the submission. You can also, some LSRPs have folks that prepare data for them. If you happen to be one of those lucky LSRPs, you can go ahead and have someone prepare the submission for you, and you would log in, and as long as you had added the facility to your profile, to your facilities first, then you can click the certification tab at the top there in the middle, the certification tab, and then you'll get any certifications that are ready for you to do. So once you find it, ours is all the way at the bottom, the RI that's all the way at the bottom. You would click the little blue ribbon on the lower right, and it'll give you here it is to certify. Do you want to certify this? You click another certify electronically button to actually get the certification page. Now, you don't know what that person put in necessarily, so the important thing about this page is the view button in the upper right hand side. So before you certify, the LSRP would click the view button, and then they get the summary of everything that the preparer did. Service information, this is an area of concern RI, great. The facility, that's correct. The case, that's my case. The site's in the right place. Contacts are right, that's the person remediating. The blocks and lots are right. SID looks good. The scope and the questions look good. Soil. You go through ARS, miscellaneous, and then what attachments got uploaded. The file names, you can check the file names are correct. And then you can see it hasn't been certified because nobody certified it yet. So if you're satisfied, then you would close that. Click the return button. Let me go through that. You have to click the return button or you won't return. You'll end up dumped into your workspace again. So click the return button, right? And it'll go to this. It'll go back to the certification. Answer your challenge question. Enter your certification PIN. When you certify, an acknowledgement email will go out. There'll be a letter attached to it. It'll show the SID the part of the SID that we got. It'll also show any attachments that could not be uploaded. Okay, so at the back of that attachment is a cover page. If you could not upload any of the attachments that are PDFs, you would burn your CD and attach this to it and mail it in. The submission will be administratively incomplete until that CD gets to us. So we really encourage you to go ahead and do not bypass, go ahead and upload everything. We've had a couple of people bypassing the electronic data deliverable, the EDD. We're not really sure why. They normally submit the EDDs to the email box, so this says, hey, if you didn't already submit the EDD, because maybe that's what happened, go ahead and send it to the electronic mailbox. But we really need you to upload the EDD in the service because it prevents us from having to find the PI and case information to attach to that EDD. It's already done for us. The other thing the EDD guys wanted to emphasize was that the set of EDDs that you give us needs to match the case that you picked. So if you have 2 cases at the PI, you're just going to give us the EDDs related to that case. Don't give us everything. And if you already submitted it, they encourage you not to submit it again. That is pretty much the end. Another question.
Wait. Do you still have your question from before?
531.
The phase that this is for the middle, let's just say the middle phase, the IR, and theoretically this phase could be bypassed in a sense, and in a sense that, I mean, I have a few cases that I submit RIRs, RARs, the way it's written, you know, a tank excavation, you go right to the RAR and you're ready, you know, the client paid up to that point. If they don't want to pay, then you go to the IR, you know, whatever the proposal is. So theoretically, you know, when the mandate comes in the next, you know, whenever that official date starts, we have a 90-day clock, you theoretically could bypass the mandate by submitting the IAR, RAR. Because if you're in a sense, I mean, there is that one case where you mentioned you send in the you know, you spend, you know, whatever, half hour or whatever, 2 hours, depending on your connection speed, you know, submitting the IAR form, and then, but theoretically you're also, with a sleight of the hand, submitting the RAR in a sense. Is that correct?
We're having discussions about other reports. One thing is, like, I'm not sure, like, we don't have anybody left from inspection and review, so I probably shouldn't answer questions about, but, you know, if the RI is required, they're going to want you probably to use this service, but, you know, we'll be working on the caveats, because there probably will be caveats.
Right. And one other question, what was the test run connection speed for these uploads? Because I currently work with a DSL system at my company, can't afford, you know, cable or FiOS. What is that? How is the test run done?
It's a good question. We're probably in the order of 10 megabytes per second, I would guess. Okay. You know, here, I ran it at home where I'm probably at 5. Seemed to go okay. We haven't reached out to the person who didn't upload the report. Their report looked like it was only 23 meg and they didn't upload it, so we need to contact them and find out, you know, did they try? You know, if they, you know, I just don't know what happened there.
You're basically connecting it at least cable mode.
Yeah, right. The other thing you can do is try it, because you can delete the submission at the end. So, you know, I know you guys don't have a lot of time, but, you know, if you just want to know, just go and do one. You know, don't certify it, but go in, go through it, upload it, and see what happens. I mean, it's scary here, you know, like I said, we're like probably around 10, and it's seconds. I mean, it was like 400 megabytes, and it probably took 20 seconds to upload. I mean, I've never seen anything like it.
Yeah, if I am the remediation phase of a very old case, you know, prior to 2009, and all I have to submit is just a CEA fact sheet, do I have to go through all the steps to submit the CEA fact sheet? Or can I bystep some of the steps to submit the form that I need to submit?
I'll let Elaine take this one. We're kind of getting into inspection and review territory.
If you don't have an RIR report to submit, we don't want you going through this service. So if you have a situation where there was the RI, it was done, it was in-house, and the only thing that has to be done to complete that RI is a CA fact sheet, you're not going to use this service. So basically, if you have an RIR report in hand, you're going to be submitting it, use the service. Now, it is an awkward stage that we're in because, you know, we're in the middle, and you know, there's situations where you're middle and all the way to the end. Like, what do I do? And what some of the folks have done, at least one that I'm aware of, they just uploaded added as attachments the other reports. You know, so we will deal with that at this point, but, you know, some of the people who manage the flow through of information, they were very uncomfortable getting other reports in this particular attachment under the RIR, because The RAO is really supposed to be under a gray bar that says RAO, and, things are supposed to be put in certain places. So there was some level of uncomfortability. So we're trying to work that all out. When we get all of these services online, right now our plan is to do the RAW next, the RAR, RAO, and then start at the beginning. We had a very, I was like ambitious schedule. That was what I was thinking, ambitious. I know, state workers, ambition, not the same, but an ambitious schedule to try to do these all within the next year or so. Depends on the plan of action. We're evaluating it now. Depending on how we go and how the programming is, we're hoping, having built the RIR service, we can use that as a platform, so it's not like a total do-over. So we're hoping that pace will go a little faster. So.
Expand the file capacity too when you do the RIR. You're only at 400 megs now. Some of these files for the data, the QA/QC alone are.
The next time, I'm going to make you sit on the aisle. So many questions, very few mics.
Split out your QA/QC and put it in. Remember, there's three opportunities at the end there. So if you're like, oh, it's all in one, I can't do it, but split it out and put in that last one.
All right, and you can talk to them after this, okay?
The last thing I want to say on that,
all right,
is if we start getting all these in electronically, that's CD at the end that's supposed to be soup to nuts, we're not going to need it. So eventually we'll get to that point where we'll have the information, and if it was submitted online, we don't need for you to submit it again in a CD because we have it.
Okay, we're going to take some web questions. What if your AOCs were soil, however, impacted groundwater site-wide? Do we have to list groundwater as an AOC for each soil AOC? And if we're treating AOC on-site and our RIR is only for groundwater impact, do we need to list the soil AOCs? Sorry, 2 questions. I'm not even sure whether it's 2 questions. Go back, Joe. Where'd it go? So let's see.
Groundwater site-wide.
Site-wide, that's one.
That's one AOC. Okay. If it's just groundwater and that's it, just having one groundwater is fine. It's when you have groundwater in different sections that move at different times with different contaminants, etc. You want to separate those out. The main reason why we separated them out is how many soils only RAOs do we issue, and then the groundwater comes next. Well, this way your SID is you have the RAO for soils, and then you still have groundwater you're working on. So there's got to be a realistic reason why you're segmenting it out. We don't need 35 AOCs listed to just say groundwater if it's the entire site.
Right. Okay, we're going to go to the next one.
Yeah, there's another question there.
What's that?
If they're doing...
There you go.
Question is, if I'm submitting the RI for only groundwater, do I list the soil AOCs, which I assume is in the SID? And I think inspection review would say the SID includes all of the AOCs every time you upload it.
Okay, so the answer is yes.
The activity will say, hey, I'm doing this RI for the groundwater, and you'll be choosing groundwater when you go through the RI, and you'll be doing AOC for groundwater.
Okay. All right, the next one is, how do we handle submitting a combined, we have a bunch of these. Do combine RI, RER, and RA portion is not available to be submitted. We already answered that, right?
There will be more to come.
More to come. Be patient. Okay, the drop-down section for checking whether your AOC is loaded correctly, what controls the order the AOCs are listed. They seem to be random, which is a problem when you have over 100 AOCs.
The system is trying to do matching ahead of time. So when we went through testing, you don't even get a drop down if it finds your AOC already. So if you edit 100 AOCs and you leave the AOC ID and the AOC description the same, you won't even need to do that. It'll just say that it found a match. And you can run the AOC report in order to see what AOCs are already in the system and whether they match your SID. I don't recall off the top of my head, what the order is. We've messed around with this. Is a test site, so
Maybe as you add them?
It's so messed up now.
Okay.
It's probably as you add them.
And hopefully...
So it should come out in an order that makes sense to you.
Okay. Just to clear it up, assuming you emailed the EDD to the EDD SRP address, you still need to attach to RI submittal?
No. If you send it to the email address, please don't send it to the email address if you're going to do an RI. But yeah, you might have. So there's the bypass button there, and you will bypass it, and then we're going to try to discover it in the files and then add it to your submission.
Excellent. Not to sound ignorant, Francis, but several times you have mentioned a CDM document. What's that?
I apologize. I was told not to use acronyms. Confirmed Discharge Notice.
CDN.
File a CDN, Confirmed Discharge Notice, if there's a spill or something to start your case.
Good. That was not a stupid question. Okay. If we prepare a combination SI-RIR, can this be submitted through this online service? You've gone as far as you have a RI, but they're including SI information.
Correct. We still need to work out some of the kinks with that. When I saw one of these situations where it was the RI, RAO, I'm thinking it's really wonky to make them submit this electronically and then paper for the rest. We need some way to accommodate that. So we need to deal with both our case assignment people who put the information in the system and create the LSD documents, along with, I think, inspection and review have less agita about it. I think it's more our data entry folks. So right now it is for the RIR. We do monitor the service. If we see other reports come in, we'll give a heads up to someone about it. But we really need to work this out because, to me, it's kind of wonky going half one way, half the other.
All right, we're going to skip the next one because I think we've answered that one. So we're going to historically, RIR and RAWP were submitted together. Currently, is RIR required to be submitted separate from RAWP? We don't have RAWPs anymore, right?
Right. We are working on RAWPs because we do realize that a lot of people, once they know how much stuff they have out there and the RI is complete, they also want to present what they're going to do about it. So I know in the rule, it came out that you need to submit your RAW 60 days prior to implementation. That is getting changed supposedly when we do the UHOT rule. So it doesn't really have a time frame. But one of the reasons why we're doing the RAP next is so we can sync these two up.
Okay, should we only submit EDDs and an attachment to the RIR, not via email?
No. The answer is, if you have an EDD that you're supposed to do with your RI, please do it via the RI service. And, as we add on additional service, then the EDDs will go on for those other phases. But if you do an SI and you need to submit an EDD, go ahead and do it into the mailbox.
Okay. I don't know, Francis, but you need to confirm each AOC as to whether they match. Oh, this has to do with the listing of the drop-down menu that had them all out of order, and she has 100 areas of concern. Or is Francis a man? I'm not sure.
Right. Again, the system will go in, and if you didn't change the AOC ID or the AOC description, it'll match, and it'll tell you that it matched. And if it didn't match, you can rematch it. But again, if you don't change anything, it'll match.
Okay. All right, any more in the room? Any more questions? We have lingering doubts. There's little concern on some of the faces, except yours.
In your introduction, you mentioned that the system works best with certain browsers. It requires a Java update and so on. Those of us who work for companies where IT is above the CEO and they like Windows 7 and it will be Windows 7 for as long as there is Windows 7, and we cannot.
Windows 7 is fine.
Yeah, or I cannot load the latest Java because it contradicts the current policy, whatever. I had a real issue where I couldn't run my internal accounting software because it was a different Java version than the officially sanctioned version. What are we going to do in the case where technology lets us down and there's no longer paper forms?
Contact us.
Okay.
I was able to use an older version of Java yesterday, so I'm hoping that's not a tremendous issue. But yeah, you're going to have to talk to us at that time. But right now, Windows 7 is absolutely fine. So its XP probably would work today, but in 2 weeks, XP probably won't work in the contacts page because you're in an older browser, Internet Explorer. That being said, you probably could use Firefox. So we can, try to work with you with some of those issues and see what we can do. We're always going to be fighting internet security and versions. It's our life now.
All right, Elaine, any last words? Hang in there, people. What's that? I didn't want one more. Oh. What if we submitted a CID did not separate the groundwater as an AOC? They're saying that it was previously submitted and so can they go back and edit anything, or they have to call BCANE?
Inspection review.
We don't really want you going back through the service just to upload a corrected SID. What you can do is contact inspection and review and follow their guidance. They may ask for you to just email the corrected SID to us, and they'll put it in to the attachment.
Okay, we want to thank everybody here for participating and for our speakers. They did a great job. Have a round of applause. Come on, wake up. There we go.
Thanks for everyone staying awake. I know it's a very dry topic at the end of the day.
All right, thank you.
Thank you.